This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
I try to imagine if 12 days ago, November 5th, what if Donald Trump had lost? What if he hadn't got 77 million votes? What if the media had their way and somehow Kamala Harris pulled it out? Or even worse, imagine if Joe Biden didn't melt down on June 27th in his one and only debate with Donald Trump. What if he didn't withdraw, quit the race under pressure from Harris and Schumer and Obama? What if Joe Biden were still on the ticket and somehow, I don't know, through massive mail-in voting or through drop boxes, the magic of drop boxes, somehow Joe Biden earned a second term? Well, he might be in a wheelchair right now, according to Jake Tapper. But what would that scene yesterday in Saudi Arabia, what would the scene today in Qatar, what would that have looked like? Obviously, Joe Biden would have struggled to get down the stairs of Air Force One and walk the purple carpet with the Crown Prince. He would have certainly struggled to speak in front of the world, all these world leaders, these CEOs, these kings and queens and princes and emirs. It would have been comical. Right now, we would be playing clips of Joe Biden stumbling and stammering or Kamala Harris cackling. They wouldn't have secured $600 billion in new investments. They wouldn't have sold $142 billion in arms to Saudi Arabia. They wouldn't have advanced this alliance. They wouldn't certainly have isolated Iran in the Middle East. It's hard to even imagine them pulling this off. What Trump did yesterday in Saudi Arabia was historic on so many levels, and I'm not sure how you can criticize it. I know he wants to take a free plane from Qatar. I know the media's obsessed with that. By the way, I'm starting to come around on the free plane idea because, as usual, I base my decisions on how much it upsets the media, and boy, is this upsetting the media. But Trump, here's the explanation, the only explanation you need as you watch and analyze and try to figure out what Trump is doing over there. Everything's a transaction. Everything's a business deal. Everything is practical, pragmatic. He's not an ideologue. When they tell him, oh, but don't forget, the Crown Prince covered up the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, the alleged journalist. He wasn't really a journalist. He was a Muslim activist, but the kingdom murdered him. And Trump says, yeah, but what are we going to do now? What are we going to we're going to cut off our alliance? Are we going to turn down $600 billion in new investments? Are we going to not buy their oil? What do you want to do about it? Lots of countries do really bad things. Many of those countries are our allies. Hell, Zelensky killed an American journalist. And we don't even mention that. There's bad people in the world, and sometimes we have to make deals with them. As we speak, Trump is signing a deal with the leader of Qatar. They're putting their signatures on this deal as we speak. And as I said yesterday, it's hard to swallow. It's hard to celebrate when you know that guy funds Hamas. That guy protects leaders of Hamas in Qatar. Well, Trump goes in there and says, that's not good, but I'm concerned about America. What's best for America? I mean, I know everyone wasn't around, 20, 25 years ago. But you know what we were doing in the Middle East? We were blowing up buildings and killing people and getting our soldiers and Marines killed and kicking in doors in Fallujah, and IEDs were going off, blowing off the limbs of American soldiers. That's not happening, and that's a good thing. And when you watch and see and kind of take it all in, you say, that's probably not going to happen again under Donald Trump's watch. And that's the best thing of all. Obviously, Iran is still a problem, and Trump is dealing with it. But he pulls these other countries away from Iraq and makes them feel like allies, real allies with the U.S., and they will benefit from that. Obviously, we are the biggest market. We got the most money. We have the biggest military. And they're saying, gee, we can be friends with the great Satan. What an idea. What a thought. And it just feels like everything is changing. It's being reset. He's going on his first foreign trip as in his second term. And what's coming out of it? Good things, peace, coordination, cooperation, and money, lots of money. This event explains, this event enlightens you on what Trump is all about. He didn't just go there with, Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth. He went there with all the titans of industry, all these CEOs, and he brought them up on stage and they shook hands with the prince, and they thought of the possibilities. They saw it as a business transaction. That might sound callous, but we tried it the other way. We had ideologues and warmongers who viewed the Middle East and said they're our enemy. They're Muslim fanatics, and they want to destroy the great Satan. Then you have Trump going and saying, you know what? They got a lot of money. They got a lot of oil. This might work out for us. This might benefit us. It's refreshing when you think about it. It's what we need right now. We have a pragmatist. We have a guy who says, we go on these trips. We go to Europe. What do we get out of it when we go to Europe? We go to Ukraine. What do we get out of it? Well, now we go to the Middle East. What do we get out of it? Billions and billions, maybe $1 trillion in investment in the U.S. economy. I don't remember Joe Biden ever even talking about getting other countries to invest in the U.S., in our country. I don't even remember that being a thing. Now it's Donald Trump's top priority. We tried it the other way. We tried it the George W. Bush way, where we were gonna have regime change in every country when we didn't like the leader. We tried it the Joe Biden way when we were more concerned with climate change than bolstering the U.S. economy. And now we have the Donald Trump way. And if you watched yesterday, it felt like things just opened up. It was a total reset in Saudi Arabia, and I assume in Qatar today. But there were a few moments that were just amazing. The president of the United States was in Saudi Arabia, and they played God Bless the USA. He came out to God Bless the USA, and he wrapped up to YMCA in Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure the village people would feel at home, would feel comfortable in too many Middle East countries, but this is what they did to make the president feel welcome, make him feel comfortable, to show just how much that they want to solidify this alliance, how much they appreciate his efforts. But there were many moments. The speech was amazing. It was so different from what we've been used to with presidents. Again, it was so pragmatic and practical and transactional. It was all about benefiting us while benefiting them, or at least convincing them it was the best thing for them. But in the end, Trump's about America. He's not about changing, the landscape and the geopolitical scene in the Middle East. He's about what works for us. How does it benefit us? Which is a great thing, a refreshing thing. We have this just a 1-minute clip from Trump talking about his job, why he's there, why we are there, just advancing this alliance with the kingdom. And it was something you would never hear from Biden or Obama or Bush or any president in my lifetime. Check this out.
In recent years, far too many American presidents have been afflicted with the notion that it's our job to look into the souls of foreign leaders and use U.S. policy to dispense justice for their sins. They loved using our very powerful military. And now it's really the most powerful it's ever been. We just are getting a budget approved, $1 trillion, highest budget we've ever had in history for military, $1 trillion. And we're getting the greatest missiles, the greatest weapons. And, I hate to do it, but you have to do it because we believe in peace through strength. You have to have the strength. Otherwise, bad things could happen. But hopefully, we'll never have to use any of those weapons. Seems to be an awfully big waste of money if you're never going to use them, but hopefully we'll never have to use them because the destructive power of some of those weapons are like nobody's seen before. I believe it is God's job to sit in judgment, my job to defend America and to promote the fundamental interest of stability, prosperity, and peace. That's what I really want to do.
There it is. There it is. It is God's job to sit in judgment, my job to look out for America's interest. He didn't sit there and look into the soul of the crown prince and say, I don't know. I don't know if he's a moral, decent man. No, he's a man who controls trillions of dollars in oil and treasure. And how can we make it work for us? And he criticized other presidents who would look at the Middle East and say, you know what, maybe we could topple this regime. Let's just squander $4 trillion and lose thousands of American lives trying to change this place. Because, I looked into the soul of the prince and I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like the $1 trillion on the military. We don't need to spend $1 trillion. We spend, as everyone knows, more than we spend more than any country in the world, more than the other top 10 countries combined. Our military is too big and too wasteful. It should be doged like everything else, and it will still be the most powerful in the world by far. But he understands that they understand strength. They understand peace through strength, and that's the point he was trying to get across, and it was perfect. That should be the message. I'm not going to sit here in judgment and say, I don't like the way you treat whatever minorities in your country, or I don't like the fact that you chop off the hands of thieves or have public executions. Those aren't good. But criticizing them or distancing yourself from them doesn't help America. Joe Biden called the Crown Prince a killer, and then he went there. And the Crown Prince wasn't there to greet him at the tarmac. And when he finally saw the Crown Prince, he gave him a little fist bump. Trump went on. He was effusive, said he loves the Crown Prince and the Prince loves him. He didn't say, I don't think you're treating women and LGBTQ people properly. I don't think you're doing enough to fight climate change. How would that help? Well, that wouldn't change the climate. All it would do was hurt the relations between them and us. He did the opposite. And when he started bringing up the CEOs, brought up Larry Fink, Sam Altman was there with Elon Musk in the same room, which is interesting because they hate each other. He brought up the CEO of Amazon, IBM, Citicorp, and Boeing to shake hands with the Crown Prince and hopefully benefit from this big new investment from Saudi Arabia, which has lots of money. These countries, Qatar has lots of money. You're not making a trip to Ukraine or one of these places with their palms out saying, what is America going to give us? Instead, Trump used his first trip to go to a country that's going to give to us, who's going to give to the United States, which was, again, I'm not a pragmatist like he is. I'm more of an ideologue, but I have to get over that. We have to get over that. Yes, we don't agree with them. We know 15 of the 19 hijackers came from Saudi Arabia. That's a terrible thing. We want to make sure it doesn't happen again. And this is the way Trump is doing it. This is how he's deterring another terrorist attack. He's telling them, you can come into this community of nations and you could all benefit and we could all get rich and live happily ever after. We don't have to fight. You don't have to. There's not some existential showdown between the West and the Middle East. It's a whole new approach. And here's the way I look at it. How did the last approach work? Why not? Why not give it a shot? I will say this. Watching him land in Saudi Arabia, watching Air Force One land in Saudi Arabia, then watching him walk the purple carpet surrounded by Saudis with guns, watching F-15s from Saudi Arabia, and today from Qatar. He was escorted into Qatar by 8 fighter jets piloted by Qatari pilots. And Greg Kelly talked about this last night on Newsmax. He was nervous. I was nervous watching this. Trump walked that purple carpet, and you don't see any Secret Service. All you see is the Saudis in their robes and you see armed Saudi guards. And you're thinking, there's got to be some of them that hate Trump. There's got to be some movement that wants to eliminate Trump. I didn't feel like security was adequate. I hope I'm wrong, but Trump himself sounded a little nervous as he was approaching Qatar this morning. Check this out.
You're going to be surrounded by 8 fighters, in about 7 minutes. Then you say, do we need them? And when they say yes, that doesn't make me feel good, right?
What's the threat? Can they tell you what the threat is?
No, let's assume there's no threat. We have to assume that.
This, you know what? This trip takes balls. There's still fanatics. There's still a lot of fanatics who hate him, hate the great Satan. All it takes is one. He made it through Saudi Arabia. Now he's going to hopefully make it through Qatar. He is meeting with Syria's new president, who used to be in Al-Qaeda, who spent like 5 years in Abu Ghraib during the Gulf War as our prisoner. He was a terrorist. And Trump offered yesterday, hell, he dropped sanctions against Syria. That is, to me, that is the ultimate in pragmatism, saying, yes, he was a terrorist, but he's now the leader of Syria. What are you going to do about it? Do you want to fight him, bomb him? We want to keep bombing Syria? No, you accept the fact that this is the best we're going to do, and you try to bring him, to make him more moderate and make him understand that the best thing for him is dealing with the U.S. You throw him a bone, you end sanctions and hope he moderates and hope things improve in Syria. Again, the old way, it didn't work. We lived through 20 years of war in Afghanistan and Iraq. The last thing we need is someone else with a itchy trigger finger looking to get us involved in another endless, pointless, stupid war in the Middle East. I felt better about Trump as president yesterday than I have in the last 110 days or the 4 years before that. It feels like we're not going to make that same mistake, which was the biggest mistake in my lifetime. George W. Bush getting us into Iraq, costing us trillions, thousands of American lives, doing real damage to this country. For what? For made up weapons of mass destruction? That there was none. There were none. I was a fool. Lots of us were fooled, were duped into supporting it. It was a colossal mistake. We're still paying for it. We're not going to do that again. At least we're not as long as this guy is in charge, because it doesn't make sense. It's not a good business deal to have another war in the Middle East. And I feel like he's going to keep us out of that. He has changed the way we look at the Middle East. We're not looking into their souls. We're not making moral judgments. We're just asking what's best for us. Certainly a war is not the answer. What else we got from the president?
This is how the speech ended.
Oh, good. This is, how great is this? There's always a little flair. There's always some fun with Trump ending a speech in the Middle East in front of all the royal family or whatever they are, all these guys in their garb and all the tradition and the pomp and the circumstance. He ends the speech with YMC. He didn't dance, though. He didn't do the Trump dance, which was a little disappointing, but let's watch how he wrapped things up yesterday in Saudi Arabia.
You have a tremendous future. Thank you very much. And please pay my respects to your father. Thank you very much. Thank you.
This guy who's like operating on no sleep. I can't imagine that being Kamala Harris. Probably trip wouldn't probably happen, but we'd still be worrying what's going to happen in the Middle East. What about Iran? Are they going to keep funding terrorism? I mean, we'd be concerned if we had that bubblehead representing us in the Middle East this week. We'd have more concern if Joe Biden was representing us in the Middle East. I have no worry. Trump, obviously, he can be a little, confrontational, and he can be, vulgar at times and shoot from the hip. I don't think we're going to find ourselves in a pointless, stupid foreign war with this guy. Right now, Marco Rubio's on his way to Turkey to participate in peace talks where Zelensky and Putin are meeting. Right now, Trump's team is talking to Qatar, trying to get them to cut off ties to Hamas. We could be looking at massive news, huge, great news in the coming days. Yesterday was great. Again, 600 billion in new investments, massive arms sales where we actually get something back, unlike Ukraine, where we just give them stuff, unlike Israel, where we just give them stuff. We're going to get money back for the weapons that Saudi Arabia gets. We could be looking by the end of this week at just incredible news, massive news. Give the man his Nobel Prize now. He has earned it. All right. Speaking of massive news, how about massive fake news? There are lots of liars and frauds in the mainstream media. We talk about this every day. I don't think anyone is ever going to touch Jake Tapper. He is the biggest fraud in a business full of frauds. He's the biggest liar in a business full of liars. He's the biggest propagandist. He is shameless. What he is doing right now, trying to sell this book, which I hope nobody buys. I implore you again, do not buy this book. He is such a slimy, sleazy fraud. It's incredible. He is pushing a book which exposes the cover-up in which he participated. And he was fully committed to this cover-up. And now he wants you to know, what was I supposed to do? They lied to me. They didn't tell me the truth. Those Biden people, they misled me. It's on them. God, this man is just contemptible. We'll get to that. And good news for degenerates everywhere. Your hero, Pete Rose, is heading to the Hall of Fame. We'll get to that too. But first,
Excuse me.
is the U.S. dollar in trouble? We're living in unpredictable times with digital currencies on the rise, a $35 trillion national debt, and inflation still at a 40-year high. Tesla billionaire Elon Musk has warned that the U.S. dollar is heading for destruction and that these factors could bankrupt the U.S. Financial experts are urging Americans to prepare right now. That's why you should strongly consider physical gold and silver to help protect your accounts like IRAs and 401ks. Preserve Gold is giving away a free precious metal guide that contains essential information on how to help protect your accounts. Just text the word Newsmax to 50505. Learn how you can put physical gold and silver into an IRA or a 401k and even purchase precious metals for delivery directly to your home. Preserve Gold has hundreds of 5-star reviews and millions of dollars in trusted transactions with satisfied clients. As an exclusive offer to our listeners, in addition to the free guide, you can also get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. So don't wait. Text Newsmax to 50505 to claim this exclusive offer from Preserve Gold today. All right, as you know, since 2020, since the first Biden-Trump race, we've been documenting, detailing on a daily basis the decline of Joe Biden. It was a joke that he was the candidate in 2020, in 2019. Obviously, he was struggling at that point. Obviously, he was never a smart man to begin with. But the dementia, the cognitive decline, the cognitive impairment was obvious, and there were literally examples of it every day. They hit him the best they could during COVID, but he's president, or he was a candidate, and then he was president, and they could only hide him so much. And virtually every appearance he made was worse than the previous one. Every appearance he made was an example of a man in serious decline. We knew he was incapable of fulfilling the duties as president 4 years ago. We knew it, we saw it, we talked about it. Now, or at least November 5th, it all changed. That's, as we predicted, that's when the media could tell you the truth. That's when they could cash in on it. That's when they no longer had to protect their guy. Keep in mind, everything the mainstream media does is just like the Democrats. Everything they do has one purpose. It is singular. They must stop Trump at every turn. Hell, even when he's in office, they have to stop him at every turn. They have to tell you that tariffs are going to lead to recession. They have to tell you that he's rolling over for Putin when he's trying to end the war. They have to tell you lies because they hate the man on a visceral level. There's nothing matters to them other than hurting, stopping, damaging Trump. That was the goal for 4 years when Biden was in office. Make sure Biden stays in office, or later on, make sure Kamala ascends to the highest office. Stop Trump. No one did it more consistently than Jake Tapper. He did it nightly on his show. He did it on social media. That was his goal. That was his job. Stop Trump. Then when Trump won, somehow someone came to him with an opportunity. You can make some money here, Jake. You and your pal Alex Thompson, another propagandist from Axios who lied about Biden's condition for years. You guys can uncover the biggest scandal of our lives. You can tell everyone just how it all went down. This is, and I know we mock the media every day, but this goes to a whole other level. This is just disgusting. Jake Tapper, as we played to yesterday, go back and watch the interview with Laura Trump when he was offended. He was upset, indignant when Laura Trump pointed out that Joe Biden couldn't put two sentences together. He actually said, how do you think it makes kids with a stutter feel when you mock a man with a stutter? A stutter. Joe Biden didn't have a stutter. He had dementia. And Jake Tapper knew it. He's a lot of things. He's not a moron. He's a sleazebag and a liar and a fraud and a propagandist. He's not a moron. He knew that Joe Biden was incapable of doing the job. They all knew. And they had one choice. The only choice for them: defend him, protect him, participate in the cover-up, or Trump will win. They failed. The cover-up is eventually failed, and Trump won. So what do they do then? Do they confess? Do they come clean? Of course not. They continue to lie. This right here is one of the most incredible moments. Jake Tapper yesterday explaining his role, the media's role, why they are blameless in the cover-up, even though they participated in it. Why? Who is really responsible for the biggest scandal in American political history? Jake says it's all those people in the White House. They deceived us. What were we supposed to do? They lied. This is incredible. Go ahead.
I'm just curious as to whether or not this kind of trying to hide what was happening with the president at the time had an impact on the press corps. Like, why didn't we hear some of these details from what they actually saw and were dealing with trying to get information?
Well, Alex Thompson and I were on the case, as were lots of other reporters, trying to figure out what was going on behind the scenes. But the bottom line is the White House was lying, not only to the press, not only to the public, but they were lying to members of their own cabinet. They were lying to White House staffers. They were lying to Democratic members of Congress, to donors about how bad things had gotten. And in fact, Alex and I started writing this book after the election of 2024. And we spoke with more than 200 people, most of whom, almost all of whom, were Democrats, and almost all of whom wouldn't be honest with us or wouldn't be candid with us until after the election. After the election, we found out all of these things that when you looked at what was going on with President Biden at the time, it probably doesn't surprise you the extent to which he was deteriorating. But now we have anecdotes and facts about what was really going on behind the scenes with details that Democrats wouldn't share with us until after Election Day.
This man's a psychopath. Honest to God. This man, he is deranged. I've never seen anyone lie so comfortably, so casually, at least no media member. Let's just go over this. All right. It's the fault of the White House, he says, for lying. Bullet point one here. White Houses always lie. That's what they do. They tell you how wonderful the president is. That's the job of the spokesman. That was KJP's job. What did we do every friggin' day for 4 years, or a year with Jen Psaki and then 3 years with KJP? We played the clips and we mocked them and we pointed out they are lying. She is lying. When KJP said he's tip-top, sharp as a tack, we said that is a lie. Here's the example. Here's Joe Biden. Stumbling and stammering and tripping and falling. And Jake Tapper was closer to this than anyone. He was there every day. He knew they were lying. Of course they were lying. He's been around. That's to be expected. What's the job of the media? To just say, oh, KJP says he's sharp as a tack. He must be sharp as a tack. He knew she was lying and he played along with it because he's on her team. And the idea, oh, we didn't start writing until after the election. We talked to these people. No one would tell us the truth till after the election. You are such a freaking shameless liar. It's almost incredible that he's willing to do that on camera, just with a straight face. Yes. And then Alex Thompson's take, and Tapper to an extent, is we didn't know till, after 2023, 2024, when things really got bad. We got to remind you here, things were bad in 2020, 2021, when he talked about getting oil cancer. That was 2021 when he fell at the Air Force Academy. These things happened years ago. And it was, did he get worse? Of course he got worse. That's what happens with dementia patients. They get worse. Here's a clip from 2022 that I don't remember Jake Tapper ever even playing this, but how was he to know? How would Jake Tapper ever know that Joe Biden was not sharp as a tack, was not particularly lucid as he was sitting in the Oval Office, the most powerful man in the world? Here he is with another propagandist, Jonathan Capehart. If you don't remember this, Joe Biden just kind of nods off in the middle of an interview. Go ahead.
I have not made that formal decision, but it's my intention to run again. And we have time to make that decision.
Dr. Biden is for it. Mr. President. Oh,
Dr. Biden thinks that, my wife thinks that we're doing something very important.
Oop, says Jonathan Capehart. Mr. President, oop. He's literally falling asleep in the middle of an interview. Compare that to the guys in the Middle East right now. It's just no comparison. That's another thing they have. Oh, that was another thing from Jake Tapper. He said it over and over. Trump's only 3 years younger. So what? Trump doesn't have dementia. This guy does. And that liar on his nightly show, here's what he did. Here's bullet point number 2. He knew they were lying, right? He says now, they were all lying. Yeah, they were lying. And we all knew, everyone knew they were lying. Again, what do you expect from Jill Biden? What do you expect from Ron Klain, Jen Psaki? What do you expect? They are sitting protecting this dementia patient. Of course they're lying. You think KJP was going to come out and say, yeah, he just took a dump in his pants in the Oval Office? Yeah, he just fell down again, or, you know, he's back there eating his rice pudding. We can't bring him out here now because he's not well. Is that what you thought they were going to say, Jake Tapper? You absolute clown. Jake Tapper, every night on his show, brought on members of the White House staffers. He brought on Democrat congressmen, senators, media people who were Democrats to tell you what he now calls lies. That's the goal. That's the game. He didn't bring on someone who said, hell, when he did have Laura Trump on, he excoriated her for pointing out the truth, of pointing out the obvious. But for the most part, he brought on fellow propagandists to tell you Joe Biden's tip top. And he did it for a reason, because he was part of the cover-up. And now that he can sell a book, he's going to say, wasn't my fault. They lied to me. The job of the media, of any reporter, and it doesn't matter what you're covering, sports or politics or news, is to call out public officials who lie to you, to grill them, to question them, to ask, are they telling the truth? You knew they weren't. We knew they weren't. We all knew they weren't. Your job is to try to get to the facts, not participate in the cover-up, you liar. Here's another propagandist from CNN, Jake Tapper's colleague, potato head, Brian Steltler. After the event where George Clooney held a fundraiser, and according to Jake Tapper, Joe Biden didn't recognize George Clooney, and that set Clooney off. He was offended, and then he wrote the op-ed in the New York Times and started the ball rolling. We saw the event, the event that he held with Clooney and Obama, when he kind of couldn't find his way off stage and Obama had to grab him by the arm. We saw that. We talked about that. We all know what we saw. They wanted at the time to think you don't believe your lying eyes. He's fine. Here's CNN after that event, which eventually led to him withdrawing from the race. Go ahead.
The White House press secretary used the phrase cheap fakes, the idea of cheap fakes. Let me explain what that is to people. We've been worried for years about AI deep fakes, that computer-generated images are going to trick people into believing something that's totally false. Cheap fakes are a little bit simpler. They're cheap. They're just distorted, out of context videos, chopped up in certain ways, constructed in certain ways. That's what we're seeing. That's what the Biden administration, the Biden campaign is so worried about right now. But make no mistake, they are worried about this. This is a real problem. This is not some made-up fiction. The videos are oftentimes made up, but the problem is real.
The videos are oftentimes made up, says CNN. Gee, Jake, did you call that out? We just watched the video. In fact, we watched it at the split screen of Joe Biden losing his way and Obama taking him by the arm to escort him off stage. That was, 2 weeks before the disastrous debate? Makes you wonder if they didn't have the debate in June, which was a setup, by the way, give them time to replace him. If the debate were where it traditionally is, like in September, they would have had no way to get out of that. That man would have been on the ballot in November. And I think Trump would have won easily, but they wanted him to be president. And now Jake Tapper wants you to think he'd be president in a wheelchair, because that's another big revelation, in a wheelchair. He didn't know his own national security advisor. According to Jake, according to Jake Tapper, he didn't know Jake Sullivan, his national security advisor. And Jake Tapper wanted that man to be president for 4 more years until he's 86. It is just incredible. I hope no one buys the book. Do not patronize these liars, these frauds. Yeah, they lied to me. They lied to me. Well, did you believe them? You believe them? It's on you. If you believe them, it's on you. See, I don't think he did believe them. He knew they were lying, but he didn't care. God, he is disgusting. I hope he never recovers from this. This should absolutely taint this man, brand him with a P for propagandist, because that's what he is. And he's pretending to be a journalist. Yeah, we did 200 interviews. You know what happened, by the way? Alex Thompson did all the work. Jake Tapper slapped his name on that, and they knew that it would help him promote the book, and he'd make some money. That's what kind of grifter he is. Just a liar, a fraud, a grifter, the king of the grifters. And there are a lot of them out there. A lot of these books, and every one of them is for people who knew what was going on and didn't care and participated in the cover-up. All right, we got to get to Jake's former colleague. Another one of those hard-hitting journalists who just didn't realize he was being lied to. Don Lemon is still howling at the moon out there. I'm not sure who's watching him, but he's trying to get noticed. He's banging, making noise, saying, "Please notice me. I have something to say." We'll get to Jake. And you know that congressman, I think his home district is somewhere in India, Sri Thanador. He is doubling down. He is going for this articles of impeachment. And yes, speaking of scoundrels, we'll get to Pete Rose, who's headed to the Hall of Fame finally.
Excuse me.
Are you a yo-yo dieter? You diet, you lose weight, you gain it all back, plus a few extra pounds. Then later you lose it, regain it again and again and again. It's dangerous. You know this. Studies show that you can increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and other health problems. Breaking free of your yo-yo diet pattern is a main reason doctors created Lean. Lean is a supplement, not an injection, and you don't need a prescription. The science behind Lean is impressive. It's studied natural ingredients target weight loss in 3 powerful ways. Lean helps maintain healthy blood sugar. It helps control appetite and cravings, and it helps burn fat by converting fat into energy. Listen, if you're tired of losing weight and gaining it back, if you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace, Lean was created for you. Let me get you started with 20% off when you enter Newsmax20 at takelean.com. That's code Newsmax20 at takelean.com. Almost makes me wish in an alternative universe, maybe someone could do one of those, like a novel. What if Joe Biden had won somehow? What if they came up with another pandemic? What if they cheated again and, had stuffed the drop boxes and mail-in balloting, got him? He'd be in a wheelchair right now. He would have advanced dementia, and Kamala would be vice president. God, we dodged a nuclear missile. All right, let's get. I can't even look at Don Lemon without laughing. It's hard to believe this guy was a CNN anchor for years, making like $5 million a year, and he's a freaking moron. Beyond that, he's a racist. Everything, just like Joy Reid. Everything's black, white, black, white. As we know, the media, the Democrats, are very upset that 59 South African farmers have been given asylum by the Trump administration. For that, we give Trump credit. This takes some balls. I'm not sure President Mitt Romney or President John McCain would do this, but these people were genuinely fleeing from oppression, perhaps death. They've killed lots of white farmers in South Africa. They've confiscated their land. So 59 of them come to this country. They touch down at Dulles Airport. They're waving American flags there. They're not disrespecting this country. They want to work. They're not looking for free hotel rooms and Uber rides and medical care. They're genuinely grateful to be in this country, which means Democrats hate them. They didn't mind the 15 to 20 million illegals who came in under Trump, under Biden, fake asylum seekers who weren't fleeing oppression. They were just coming for the freebies and everything else Democrats had to offer. They were hoping to eventually vote for Democrats. Trump's getting them the hell out at record pace, hopefully get them all out. But, I mean, how could you have a problem with people like this coming in the country, waving our flag, not burning our flag, waving our flag, not saying death to America, death to Israel, just saying it's great to be here. Thank you, Mr. President. This pissed off lots of people in the media. We played you some of the examples yesterday. It really pissed off Don Lemon, who is, I don't know what he's doing, some YouTube show. He wanders the streets of New York and talks to himself and hopes to get shows like this one to play his clips. And I guess we're indulging him, but check out this moron.
This South African farmer bullshit, which is the most blatantly obvious racist shit ever. It is blatantly obvious the way that we treat white South Africans, who, by the way, for the most part, and I am generalizing here, some of the wealthiest people are well-to-do people in the country that speak their language. They own most of the land and the property, and somehow they're being granted a fast track to become Americans while they're trying to cut down on immigration from other countries. You know where you get that from? Where? From the brown people. On March 7th, Trump took to Truth Social to announce he is offering white South African farmers, quote, a rapid pathway to U.S. citizenship, pointing out that South Africa's new land reform push signed into law last year, which lets the government take land without compensation if the property is not being used and there's no intention to either develop or make money from it. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you some context here. They're not just taking land away from white South Africans.
Yes, they are.
White South Africans, about 9% of the population, owned 87% of the fertile land. Okay? Today, Black South Africans make up more than 90% of the population, and they only hold about 4% of all privately owned land. So what they're trying to do is say, hey, we need to fix an historical injustice and figure out if you're not using that land to farm, then we need to have some of that land, not taking all of your entire farm. That's not what's happening. And we need to what? There needs.
Where would it begin with this?
Alone.
So they're not taking all their land. Why did they come here? Don, you think they still own the land? You fool. They're here because their land was confiscated. Their farms were confiscated, which is allowed under the Constitution in South Africa. You think the people who arrived here, those 59 people, they still own the land? And of course not, you idiot. Why are they here? He just hates them. He looks at them, says they're white, they're happy, they love America. We don't want people like that. What do you mean? They speak English? They work? They contribute? Why would we want them here? Let's get more Haitians and Venezuelans who don't speak English and have no intention of contributing to society or assimilating. This was a great move by Trump. Someone had a great idea. I like this. Trump should take that plane from Qatar today, that new 747, take it today, fly it back here, stop in South Africa, pick up another 200 white farmers, bring them back to the U.S. and say, we got some grateful new Americans, people who love this country. Crank up God Bless America as he lands. That's what he should do. Double down, because this was a great move. All right, we don't have time for Sri Thanador, that clown from wherever he's from, Michigan. He's filing articles of impeachment. Maybe we'll get to that tomorrow. We got to do Pete Rose before we go. Pete Rose will be in the Hall of Fame. So will Shoeless Joe Jackson. This is from ESPN. In a historic sweeping decision, baseball commissioner Rob Manfred removed Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe, and other deceased players from Major League Baseball's permanently ineligible list. The all-time hit king and Jackson, both longtime baseball pariahs stained by gambling, are now eligible for election into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Obviously, they'll get in. I don't think they can get in till 2028. And people are celebrating this. I'm fine with this. Put him in the Hall of Fame. But it drives me nuts. People don't even understand the issue. First of all, he wasn't eligible. Every time the Hall of Fame votes would come up every January, people say, put Pete in. He wasn't eligible. He wasn't on the ballot. He was barred, banned. And he didn't have to be. Pete Rose could have shown a little humility years ago, apologized, come clean, just showed a little remorse. But that's not his nature. Pete Rose is a lunatic. I spent time with him. I was in his hotel room watching football one time, and he was betting on every game, and he was just like a typical gambling addict. But he was He was kind of a degenerate and a lovable degenerate to a lot of people, but he wasn't eligible. He wasn't going to get in the Hall of Fame until he came off the ineligible list. He's off. He'll get in the Hall of Fame posthumously. That's great. That's wonderful. The other thing is, and I saw 3 or 4 different news anchors in the last day saying he bet on his own team because he was a winner. He was a winner. He only bet on his team to win. That is a lie. He didn't just bet on his team to win. He bet on his team to do everything and anything. Win, lose, you name it. As someone described him once, if he was sitting in the dugout and 2 drips of water were coming down the wall, he would ask someone if they wanted to bet. Pick which one you bet. He would bet on everything. And even if he only bet on his team to win, then the next game he didn't bet, that would be a signal to gamblers that he didn't have faith. Plus, he burnt out players to win games that he bet on. He went all into meaningless game in May to win because he bet. He was not a good guy. He was a great player, great hitter. He holds the record for most hits. He's going most games. I think that hit record will remain for forever. 4,256 hits. That's unbreakable. Games played, 3,562 at-bats, singles, outs, 3-time World Series winner, MVP. Of course, he qualified. His credentials would put him in the Hall of Fame, but until now, he wasn't eligible. Now he gets in. That's great. Everyone could celebrate. But
still needs to survive the baseball writers who are known to be annoying.
He'll get 75%. He'll get in because he's eligible. He wasn't eligible before, and time heals. Time does. People forget.
I tell Kurt Schilling that.
What he did. Oh, but Schilling's still alive. Wait till he dies. Good news, Kurt. Once you die, you get in. He certainly belongs in the Hall of Fame. Kurt's, that's worse. That's a worse scandal. He's not in because he likes Trump, because he's outspoken conservative. That's why Kurt Schilling is not in, and everybody knows it. But obviously, Shoeless Joe, who took money to throw the 1918 World Series and didn't live up to the bargain, by the way, hit 357 in the World Series after taking money to throw the World Series. So his whatever, it's over. They're dead. They can get in. And you know what? They should put it on the plaque. Suspended for gambling. Put it on the plaque. Put him in the Hall of Fame. And everyone will be happy and say, it's about time because he's a winner. Yes, he's a winner. He was a great hitter. He was a tough player. People love to watch him play. But he wasn't eligible, and he could have been if he just showed a little humility, which wasn't in his nature. But Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle will be in the Hall of Fame eventually. Yes. Shoeless Joe took $5,000 in cash to throw the 1919 World Series, batted .375, didn't make an error, and hit the series' only home run. Is that a good thing that he took the money to throw the World Series and didn't keep his end of the bargain? But whatever. That's 106 years ago. Let him in. And you know what? It's a museum. They belong in. Put them in. People will go to their plaques, their busts, like I did when I went to the NFL, the Football Hall of Fame. Me and everyone else that day went right for the O.J. Simpson bust just to see this man, this murderer. He's actually in the Hall of Fame. Doesn't change anything. It's an attraction. It's a museum. Put him in. But good for you, Pete. Congratulations. It was quite a trip hanging out with Pete. We all know people like that. You're not like that, Ironhead. You know those degenerate gamblers that everything, their whole life is about chasing.
Our friend Montante is that way. He's betting on like high school lacrosse.
Right. Montante's like Pete Rose, and you know it doesn't make them unlikable. They're kind of interesting and fun to be around, but he broke the rules, and then he lied. Simple as that. So he'll be in, and then we're going to hear about those poor steroid users. Do they have to wait till they're dead? They broke the rules. They get to keep all the money, all the trophies. They don't deserve the honor. They cheated. They know they cheated. Let them in. You know, there should be some price to pay for that. And this is a small price. But anyway, we'll see what happens with Clemens and Bonds and A-Rod, who clearly belong in by the numbers, but they cheated. They lied. I have no sympathy. Anyway, we will leave it there for today as we wait for the next big deal. It's coming. I feel like in the next couple of days, the world is changing for the better, and Trump is changing it. And we'll see what happens in Qatar, in Turkey, and we'll be all over it. But that will do it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is The Callahan Show, and we will do it again tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, my God. Is she crazy?
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.